All right, so today we're going to talk savings, discounts, and all of these things should lower the cost that you pay for the item. So here's a question. It says Jonas needs to buy a new winter jacket. He has waited for a sale in a jacket that originally cost $249.95 is now discounted 20%. How much will the jacket cost? Okay, so you can do two things. One way to do it would be to think about the discount of 20%, and you can multiply the selling price of $249.95, I believe, times 20%. What do you have to do to the percentage before multiplying? Change it to a decimal. Excellent. And what is 20% as a decimal? 0.2. Okay. What is 249.95 times 0.2? 49.99. So that's how much he would get taken off. All right. What would I need to do with that number and the original price of the jacket? Why are you subtracting? Like yesterday when we were talking markup and tax, we were adding, because those two things increase the price. But what do we know about a discount or a sale? It's going to decrease. So if I want to know the new cost after the discount, I can take the $249.95 and I can subtract $49.99. And what do we end up with? $199.96. Now, this question does not mention tax. But if it did mention tax and we were in the province of New Brunswick like we are here, all right, what would I do to the $199.96? Multiply it by 1.15. Where's the 1.15 coming from? It's 15% tax that's added to 100%, so you got 115% as a decimal, 1.15. Cool? So that's one way to do it. It's a two-step method that way. So I did step one, I figured out what the discount was. This was step one. And then step two, I subtracted that from the original price. I can do these questions like I did yesterday as well. Okay? Think about, all right, a discount of 20%. So if you're saving 20%, how much are you paying? 80%. So the first thing I could do is I could take 100% and not add 20%, but subtract it. So if I'm saving 20%, I'm actually only paying 80%. And to get my final cost, or the selling price of the coat, I can take the $249.95, and I can multiply that by how much? How much am I paying? If I'm saving 20, I'm only paying 80%. What do you think this works out to be? $199.96. $249.95. 95 times 0.8, which is 80% as a decimal. That's the 199.96. Cool. This way might be quicker. Just know that with markups and tax, I would add that percentage to 100, but with discounts and savings and sales, I'm going to subtract that percentage. Cool? All right. Next question. It says, which of the following is the best deal for a new 1 terabyte hard drive that regularly costs $109.99 in Saskatchewan, where GST and PST is 5%? Which is the word? Okay, so let's scratch this. Let's change this to New Brunswick, and let's change the tax to HST of 15%. Cool? We won't worry about a goods and service tax and a provincial sales tax. That's old school. All right. So option 1 is 20% off. So let's look at that. So we'll say option 1. That's just 20% off. So if it's a discount of 20% off, what should I do with those percentages? What's 100%? Should I add 20%? I would subtract 20%. What's that going to give me? 80%. Now, if I want to know the cost before tax, I'm going to take the cost of the hard drive, which is $109.99, and I'll multiply it by how much? 0. What? 0.8. 80%, which is 0.8. And what is 109.99 times 0.8? Everyone cool with 87.99 for the answer? And then if I want to know the cost after tax or with tax, I'm going to take 100% and I'm going to add what? What was the HST in New Brunswick? I'm going to add 15%. What's that give me? 115%. So this was the discount, and this was the tax. I'm going to take the $87.99, and I'm going to multiply it by what? What would I multiply it by, guys? 1.15, 115%. So if you do 87.99 times 1.15, 87.99 times 1.15, that gives me $101.19. You cool with that? That's option 1. So that's the cost of the terabyte for option 1. Let's look at option 2. Should say 80, oh no, it says of. 85% of the regular price. If it's 85% of the regular price, what's the discount? It's 15% off. Okay. So for option 2, cost before tax. Right now, you should be able to make it an educated guess or make a statement about this. Like, what's better if you're the customer? Would you sooner get 20% off or 15% off? 20% off. So I would already cross this out, but I'll show you the math. I'll show you that if I do this option 2, I'm going to pay more than $101.19. So I would go 109.99 times 0.85 or times 85%. 109.99 times 85%. It's going to equal 109.99 times 0.85. Change it to a decimal. And that gives me $93.49. So you can already see this figure here is higher than this one here. What's the cost after tax going to be for option 2? Cost after tax, and how'd you get that? Multiplied by 1.15. So we go 93.49 times 115%. You're still paying 15% tax. That gives you 93.49 times 1.15. And 93.49 times 1.15 is 107.51. So option 1 is still the better deal. Why? Why is the cheaper price better than the more expensive one? Because you're the consumer, you're buying, you're paying money. Like if you were receiving this money, then obviously I'd want the bigger amount. But when I'm paying for items, I want to pay the smaller amount. Option 3, you don't pay the tax. So there's no discount. So what would you pay for the hard drive? $199.99. So the cost is just $109.99. So if you're comparing the 3 options, which one's still the best? Option 1. And then finally, you have option 4, which says 1/4 off the regular price. 1/4 would be equivalent to what? 25%. 1/4 equals 25 over 100 equals 0.25 equals 25%. Now think about this. 20% off, 15% off, or 25% off. Which one's going to be the best? 25. This should be our cheapest option. So option 4 is 25% off. So I would have to go 100% minus 25%. That would leave 75%. So when it comes to the cost before tax, I'm going to take the 109.99 and I'm going to multiply it by 75%, which is 0.75, which gives me $82.49. How would you figure the cost after tax? Multiply it by 1.15. So I'd take the 82.49 and multiply it by 115% or 1.15. 82.49 times 1.15, and I get $94.86. So when I compare those four options, what's the best deal? Option 4 is the best deal. I would sooner pay $94.86 than any of those other amounts. Cool? So there's a brief introduction to discounts. We'll pick up here tomorrow.